Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of Basic Java Programming. So in this episode we are going to learn about variable scope. So in Java you can define variable scope in two ways. First one, you can define variable scope for a Java class, and the second one, you can define variable scope for a Java method. So the scope of variable inside a class and the scope of variable inside a Java methods are two different concepts. So here I am going to show you how to organize the variable scope inside a Java method. We will discuss the variable scope inside a Java class in another episode. So here in this class there is only one method, that is the main method. So for every method there is an opening bracket and closing bracket. This is called the curly braces. So if you open a curly brace for a method, that will actually begin the scope of some variables or objects. And if you closing the curly braces for a method, actually that will end the scope of some variables or objects. Suppose here in this main method I declare a variable x and I initialize some value for this variable, say 5. Okay, so this variable x is accessible to all over this method. That means the variable x has a scope start from the opening bracket, and the scope of variable x is ending before the closing of the curly braces for that particular method. And in a method you can organize the variable scope by defining some blocks. A block is nothing but an opening curly bracket and a closing curly bracket. Suppose here I am going to make a block. So a block is starting with an opening curly bracket and a block is ending with a closing curly bracket. This is block 1. I name it as block 1. Okay. Now here I am going to make another block. So I just open a curly bracket. That means I just begin scope of some variables here, and here I close the curly bracket. So this is block 2 and I name it as block 2. Okay. Now inside the block 1 I am going to declare another variable, say y. Also initialize variable y with some another value 6. So now in this program we have a variable x which is declared outside of all the blocks, and here we have two blocks, block 1 and block 2. So in block 1 we have another variable y, and I initialize that particular variable with value 6. Now inside block 2 I declare the same variable y again. You can see there is no error because the variable y is accessible only in block 1. That means the variable y is local to block 1. This is here in the block 2 I declare a variable with the same identifier y, but here there is no error because the first variable y is local to block 1 and the second variable y is local to block 2. And here I initialize some other value for variable y. Okay. So in block 1 and block 2 variable x is accessible because variable x is declared outside of all the blocks. But variable y is accessible. This variable y is accessible only in block 1, and here on block 2 I use the same variable name. There is no error because y is local to that particular method, particular blocks. Okay, so here I am going to make a statement, system.out.println from block 1 first I print value for x. Now I print value for y. This is plus y. I use the same statement. I use the same statement in block 2 also. Okay, just run the program. Here we have the output. In block 1, x is 5 and y is 6. But in block 2, x is same value 5 but y is 8 because these two y's are different. So this is how we define, how we organize the variable scope inside a Java method. So you can organize the variable scope inside a Java method by just simply define some blocks. So if you open a curly braces, that will begin some variable scope, and if you close a curly braces, that will end some variable scope. Okay. Also you can make a nesting of scope. That means you can make a block inside another block. So here I am going to show you how to make nesting of block. This is the main method ending. So this is the first block. I name it as outer block. Okay. Now inside the outer block I made another block. This is, I name it as inner block. Okay, so inside the outer block I made some variable declaration int n, and inside the inner block I made some variable declaration int p, and here I initialize variable n with some value 3, and inside the inner block I initialize variable p with some value 7. Okay, now inside the inner block, here I am going to make a statement p equal to p plus n. So there is no error because variable n is accessible inside the inner block. So if you declare some variable in outer block, that variables are accessible to the inner block. But the reverse is not true. Suppose here I am going to make a statement n equal to n plus p. Of course we got some error because variable p is not accessible in outer block. So variable p is local to the inner block. So that is the concept while you working with nesting of block. So if you nesting the variable scope, the rule is all the variables declare in the outer block is accessible inside the inner block, but all the variables declare in the inner block is not accessible to the outer block. That is the rule while you working with variable scope inside a Java method. I hope you enjoy this video. Please try with some examples, and thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.